Hello and welcome back to the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I am Tom Mills and today I'm joined by Sam Williams,
Hello.
Carl Wing,
Hello.
and as always, if you want to get in touch with us, you can get us at Cookie Jar Golf on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. So we've got a cool little bonus episode for you guys today. We've been having a little back and forth with the Buck Club on Instagram, and Max Arden, who's representing them, jumped on and decided to give us a bit of his time. Max is a really interesting chap. He is possibly the youngest director of golf in the world as being director of the Buck Club. And for those of you who don't know anything about the Buck Club, it's a project headed up by Zach Blair, who is designing a golf course in Utah. And at the moment, it's still in the design phase, but they've got a whole load of amazing merchandise that I really urge you to check it out. It's pretty cool stuff. So we're going to jump in with this, and this is Max talking about the Buck Club.
Watch this. It's Max Arden. Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. How are you guys doing?
We're all good,
good.
thank you. We are coping. It's weird and strange times, but missing golf dearly.
Sure is.
For those that know the name, but probably not necessarily the plan, what is the Buck Club all about?
Yeah. So started off kind of as Zach Blair, he's PGA Tour pro. Started out as kind of his, passion project. He wanted to build a course out in Utah, and it's going to be a private club that was just kind of his playground and a place for him to, work on his game. He loves golf course architecture, so his place to be able to design a golf course and all that good stuff. So started off as that. He made a logo handful of years ago, and I think a couple of his buddies saw it, and he just made a few for them, and then a few of their buddies saw it, and it kind of just grew into this platform, really, where Zach made a Twitter page, he made an Instagram page, and people really love the logo. And I get people outside of golf asking me what the logo is, which is always cool, but it's definitely tough to explain that right now we are we're a golf club without a course attached to our name for now. So that is soon changing, but we are really excited to hopefully still be able to have the Ringer in August, which is the annual tournament that we run through the Buck Club down at Sweetens Cove this year, which we're looking forward to. So yeah, our fingers are crossed that we can still have that on time.
It's unbelievable when you think he's kind of the way you're going about it. Because I've spent quite a bit of time on the website, Max, kind of reading about it, and the anticipation, just reading about the first tee, for example, on the website. When you look at the course plans, it's like, oh my God, this place sounds incredible. But the way kind of you and Zach are going about it is almost like doing every step that you would logically take in building a golf club, but doing it in complete reverse, right? So, typically you'd think, well, we'll do the logo, we'll do the social media, we'll start to build a brand. Once we've built the course, we'll do that step first. Whereas now it's almost become it's clearly not a crowdfunded project, but the mentality and the way you're trying to build that is very much with a crowdfunding mentality. Would you say that's fair?
I think I think you hit the nail on the head there. We obviously building a golf course and a club of the echelon that we want the Buck Club to be takes time, and we have no reason to rush it. We want to take our time on this and want to make sure that we make sure every detail's good, and when it does come to fruition, we know it's going to be everything we want it to be. So we can't wait.
What you kind of just an observation on kind of golf in America, Max. I'd be interested to kind of get your take on this. But a lot of over in the UK, what you would typically see is people really enjoy the sport. They enjoy the sport with people they know. They're quite motivated by clubs, club technology, and playing good golf courses, typically places that have hosted tournaments or things of that nature. It's very kind of traditional in that sense. Over in the States, what you guys seem to have is a massive affinity with like a brand and an identity. And a lot of these kind of merchandise, you look at things like the work that Mackenzie are doing, Seamus Golf, Link Soul, all these kind of things. They're very much kind of like lifestyle brands. And I just kind of, it's interesting in what you can see in the States is this whole movement around golf and kind of wanting to be a part of that particular brand and identity within golf. And I'm kind of curious as to know what's driving that, what's kind of meant that we're there, that, you know, these kind of pockets of Sweetens Coves and, you know, Pinehurst and Bandon, that appeals to that kind of younger demographic, the millennials, the kind of, it's just a really different kind of concept than what we see over here. And maybe we're just, you know, kind of lagging behind, and maybe we'll be there in a few years. I don't know. Just kind of interested in your take on that.
I think largely golfers are still kind of interested in the same things that you said, kind of, you know, new club technology, wanting to hit the ball a little bit further, wanting to score a little bit lower, and wanting to play some of the, you know, the courses you've seen on TV before. I think with the introduction of social media, especially from a brand perspective, I think that has really brought in this big wave of change, especially with younger people, right? You got to think who is going to be on the social media to see these brands posts and to kind of be influenced, if you will, by them. And I think that is the younger demographic. So I think because of that, these cool brands and these cool destinations have really become prominent, at least in the social media eyes of golf in the States. So I think I kind of sit somewhere in the middle where I have friends on both sides, and I, by all means, want to get to play all the cool courses that I've read about and seen pictures of. But at the same time, you know, have my friends that are in golf brands, and I'm personally in one. So definitely try to find an even medium there. But
is there a big thing around sort of that movement around kind of public golf? Because it's not something we have as bigger issue with in so much as most courses over here have public access. Is that kind of country club elite and the fact that there's an access issue for a lot of golf courses in the States? Do you think that's partly contributing around some of that? Is that fair to say?
Definitely. And I think it's a good movement, because I do think it's gotten a lot. I mean, I've heard just stories from a lot of people that, you know, found, whether it's the Buck Club or Sugarloaf Social Club or Mackenzie or any of these kind of cool brands, you know, they found them and thought their stuff was cool, and either had played golf in the past or whatever that their kind of background with golf was before, you know, they weren't an avid golfer, and got involved, found, you know, their local public course and really had a great time. During my high school competitive golf years, we would play at Mosholu Golf Course, which is a public 9-hole course in the Bronx, which is in between Manhattan and Westchester. And it was such a fun course to play. And I try to get back there a couple times a year. You know, if you get out early enough, you can probably do 3 loops pretty efficiently. And they have a Redan out there. They have a Biarritz out there. So some pretty cool holes and just really fun golf. So I think above all, whether it's public or private, I think what everyone's looking for is fun golf. Yeah. And hopefully we can find some more options in the New York area. It's definitely not the most public golf rich area. We do have Bethpage, which is awesome. Ferry Point's really cool, but obviously not too cheap. So hopefully, I think what Sugarloaf Social Club has done with their Hidden Gem project, which you can find on their website, is just highlight some really cool little public spots, you know, throughout the country. So definitely check that out.
And we're members, aren't we, soon, Cal, of the Sugarloaf Social? Is that right?
Yeah, we have some towels on their way. So they should be arriving this week. So I've
never been so excited about receiving a towel in all my life.
They look awesome. And I guess touching back on what Sam was saying there, how will the Buck Club sort of fit into that model? Are you going to sort of be like a Sweetens Cove, and is it a private members club, or are the public going to be able to come and play, or what's the vibe?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on that now. You know, every day kind of we come up with a different thing, and we're like, maybe this could be cool. Like, what would this look like, or what would that look like? Overall, it is going to be a private club. It is. But there will be public access, and you will have ways to play it, regardless of your standing as a member or non-member.
Yeah, cool. And that's kind of like that British model, isn't it? Which, you know, we talked with Tom Coyne. You know Tom a few weeks ago, and kind of that where you've got the balance of two. It's almost like that sweet spot, isn't it? Really, it's nice to be able to keep some access.
Definitely.
Just looking at the course then, so I think I saw some stuff recently there, and you started to secure a plot of land for Buck Club. When do you guys start to break ground on it? What's the process? Who have you commissioned? Have I dreamt that it's the same guy from Sweetens Cove? Is that Rob Collins?
Yep, Rob Collins. You'd be correct.
So when's all that going to start happening then?
Yeah, so we have secured a piece of land. Right now, we're kind of doing our diligence period, and look forward to definitely sharing some more details on the land itself. But it is with Rob Collins, so it's kind of Zach and Rob working together on that. As far as timeline for breaking ground, it really depends on how long it takes us to get the permits and proper papers we need to be able to dig in. So, right now we're finishing up fundraising for at least the first portion of the project, which is kind of the break ground stage. And really look forward to sharing more when we can.
But I've seen some of the videos online, and the topography of the land just looks insane. And some of the ways that Zach has got those holes lined out with the alternate sort of greens on some, and ways you can play alternate holes. It looks really interesting. What can you tell us about that sort of thing?
So as far as the land goes, it is very sandy, which that was a big part of Zach and kind of our decision to move out of the Utah kind of landscape when it comes to building this course. There was a piece of land that Zach had in mind in Utah that he really loved, but financially it wasn't going to work out. And when we kind of looked into the details of it, the land wasn't the best we could get to build a golf course on. When we want to build a golf course, we want it to be firm, we want it to run fast, and you really need sandy soil for that to work out. So this land definitely has a ton of sand, like you said, some great topography. And as far as the routing goes, Zach has routed it so that on the main course you come back to the clubhouse every 4 to 5 holes. So you can go out in different places, come back in at different places. So it's going to be a really fun place to play golf.
I think I would definitely point our listeners to the website. I think it's a masterpiece on the course design. We won't kind of dwell on it too much, but I've got to kind of read out just a little excerpt to kind of whet the appetite, if you don't mind. So on the course plans, you kind of have some principles, right, for each of the different golf holes and how it's all going to be laid out. And opening point A on hole 1, the clubhouse shall be situated directly adjacent to the putting green, the first tee, driving range tee, and home green. These closely connected features and seamless transition will create a hub of activity around the beginning and the end of one's round. So, I mean, you just kind of get the feeling, you can almost see exactly how that feels. The thought of kind of teeing off whilst others are kind of finishing their round, the fact that everyone's routed back through just creates like its own like little amphitheater, and everyone loves that kind of social scene when they're kind of out playing. So I just think it's fascinating the whole way this stuff's kind of getting weaved in, whereas previous designs, it was always, about creating 18 fantastic golf holes and how you route that within the topography of the land. Whereas now it's almost how you create that social environment as well as part of that. And I think that's a really kind of interesting aspect.
Definitely. I think one thing I really enjoy, and I know Zach obviously does as well, is when you go to a golf club, having everything be right there is such kind of an underrated aspect to a golf course and to a location. I know I was lucky enough to play out at Friars Head, which is out in Long Island, and they have probably my favorite range and short game area I've ever been able to look at. It's just a huge range. They have little bags with balls with the Friars Head logo on it. The awesome chipping area, really cool, like putting course and putting practice green. And the only downside to it is that it's probably a 1.5 minute cart ride away from the first tee in the clubhouse. And I think while that's definitely, there are pros to that, if you want to go practice and kind of get lost, that's really nice. But I don't think there's going to be too much grinding happening at TBC. I think it's going to be a place to really enjoy the game of golf. And I think a large part of that is kind of the camaraderie and being able to see, your fellow golfers as much as possible.
Are you going to have a Patrick Boyd character sitting in the pro shop running business?
We'll definitely have a character. There's no question. Shout out to Panther Mike.
I think in America, though, you're so blessed with land absolutely everywhere that you can kind of, if you were given carte blanche to design a golf course, you can kind of be forgiven for spreading everything out and really kind of losing that personal feel a little bit, because you just got so much land that you can use. And to kind of dial that back, that you seem to be doing at the Buck Club, and trying to bring everything back close together so you get that vibe, it's pretty unique in America, I'd say.
Definitely. And I think that's another one of my favorite aspects of an actual golf course is a place like Sweetens Cove or a place like Mid Pines, all these holes are number two, Pinehurst number two. They're all really intertwined, and you get some fantastic layering, like natural views, just of the way the holes are laid out. You can look in a straight line and see three green complexes. Like that's so cool, and you can see three groups putting out. Or you can, when you get to Sweetens Cove, you can see the kind of the same way you can at Shinnecock. You can see the clubhouse from every point on that property, which is
That's
something
awesome.
really cool, where you can really have a sense of community. And I think that's why Sweetens Cove fits so perfectly for the Ringer, because it really is so much about the camaraderie, and it's just a big catch up for a huge group of friends that just want to play golf and catch up and get talking. So I think that's why it's such a good place. You want to be able to interact as much as possible, really.
And you mentioned the Ringer earlier, which I guess is the Buck Club's invitational. Well, you can probably tell us better, but it sounds like an invitational to drum up interest in the Buck Club and help raise funds, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so that's definitely a big part of it. We have merchandise sales out there that all support TBC, but our overarching goal with it is it's really a charitable golf tournament. In the past, we've given to whether it's the First Tee or the ACE Grant, which is an AJGA fund for kids that are at the level to play in these really great junior tournaments, but can't necessarily afford all the travel fees and really expenses that go into it. We've worked a lot with some places out in Utah that Zach has kind of grown up playing around, and so that the charity aspect definitely comes first when it comes to the Ringer, and I think the side effect that it causes is just a ton of fun for us and some of our friends to come out and always try to incorporate some new people into it, and just really create the most fun couple of days we can for everyone.
And I have to say, the stash, the merchandise that comes with it is phenomenal. I mean, we probably only plugged into it really in the last. I probably noticed it a few months ago, but it's certainly been more on our radar recently. And looking back at some of the photos, you're obviously linking in with Mackenzie and Footjoy and Pedraddy, and
yeah, I think Zach loves making cool stuff, and he's from being on tour, he's formed some great relationships with people like Footjoy and Mackenzie and kind of all those companies. So to be able to support them and then also provide some of their awesome stuff as a part of the Ringer is something that we obviously love to do, and it's obvious that people that view it are really interested by it.
And the heavy investment in merchandise for you, do you think that's one of the big drivers for you in the Buck Club to try and really generate interest into the course?
Definitely. And I think, like you said, in the States, a lot of it go hand in hand. A lot of people want to see the golf course, and once you see the golf course, it's kind of like you can wear that logo in a badge of honor. And we look forward to hopefully everyone that's purchased a piece of the Buck Club gear is able to come out and experience the golf club and be able to wear that logo with pride, knowing that they saw this project to fruition.
We touched on this with Tom Coyne a few weeks ago, but it seems to, taking all of this into account, and especially with the backs, seems to be three different types of movements. There's the sort of the Sunday pencil bag walker carrier, there's the pushcart mafias, or there's the guys who will just ride carts and just drink beer all day long. That's definitely seems a thing from the UK's perspective.
I mean, I remember, I forget what magazine it was. I feel like it was Golf Magazine, golf.com. I remember them posting something. It was like our top 2019 Sunday bags. I was like, let's give this a look. And it was bags that I would consider tournament ready bags. It was like a Ping Huffer.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not a Sunday bag, guys. Like that's a golf bag, So definitely, I mean, I'm a smaller person. I'm 5'9" on a good day and 125 pounds. So having kind of carrying less during the off season, carrying less golf clubs is something that has really been interesting to me. And until a couple days ago, I had, as far as my irons go in my bag, I only had evens in there. And the other day, for the first time of the year, I took out all my irons, and I was out on the course and contemplating my approach shot. I had so many more options, and it was almost like I wish I only had my 6-iron here right now, and I just had to knock it down. So that's been kind of an interesting change for me, but I definitely am still interested in playing competitive golf. So I try to work on my game wherever I can, but definitely always try to carry as only what I need.
We've got some guys over in the UK part of something called the minimalist golf movement. So they're kind of massive fans of 7 or 8 clubs, no more. You carry a bag where even with 7 or 8 clubs, you need to wedge the things in there. Like, you need to take a run up to get the thing in the bag, and, no branding, 0 branding. It's not about score. It's about shots, shaping, kind of how you can make a 6-iron, play a sort of 80-yard run up shot in. And kind of there's a lot in that, I think. Just in terms of your golf, like you talk about competitive golf, you're clearly kind of heavily into this. I've seen some stuff there where you looks like you're playing in tournaments and stuff. Where's your golf at right now? Is there sort of a dream of a high level amateur golf or perhaps professional at some day? Is that pipe dream, or is that stuff that you're genuinely sort of working towards?
Yeah, I definitely, in the last year or so, I'd say I have a couple buddies over here that I play with pretty regularly in the summer. And I think along with just, playing some cool courses and getting a few cool courses built like the Buck Club, my dream really is to play in some high level amateur events. Right now, I'm about a 3 index. I play club golf for my university, which has been a ton of fun. Gotten to play in some fun tournaments there with some cool guys. And, just really working on my game this summer. I hope this all kind of can straighten itself out enough to the point where I can hopefully get to practice and maybe even play a qualifier or two. But, the New York area, for a shortened season, it is a very competitive place to play golf. Really? Next to Florida on the West Coast, I would say it's probably one of the most competitive places in the area just because of the level of golf courses that we can provide here. So definitely high level amateur is definitely the dream. There's some cool mid-am tournaments in the area, and hopefully be able to have my name on there at some point.
Well, we were talking about Lucas Michel, who obviously we had the joy of interviewing when we sort of first spoke. And Lucas is kind of his view on it is if you want to play really good competitive golf, but you want to play some sick tracks, play amateur golf, don't turn pro. As soon as you turn pro, you are playing very different courses. And actually the guys are blessed on the amateur circuit with, particularly look at the mid-ams and the places they play. It's like, genuinely sort of first class courses.
Yeah. I think since, amateur golf really is the heart and soul of the game of golf as a whole, I think because of that, clubs that maybe wouldn't offer up their course to professional tournaments have more of a sweet spot to amateur events, or in a lot of cases like the Crump Cup have made their own and kind of are able to run it in a way that they want to while also having a premier event with some premier players. So I think, I know a couple mid-ams in the area. Brad Tilley is one that I'm really good friends with. And, hopefully, a lot of them have been canceled, unfortunately, for this year. But there are some amazing courses that host some really cool mid-am tournaments and just amateur events in general.
You said earlier on that you have these ambitions to try and play some high-quality amateur golf. Does meeting Zach and the way that came about, now being involved with the Buck Club, does it kind of reset your ambitions a bit? Because I feel like you're still quite young, and you've already got yourself in a position where I imagine you didn't think you could be a few years back, and now you've got the ability to play with the pro golfer. And does it kind of reset your ambitions and think, well, actually, yeah, I can achieve these things. I just need to put in the time and work.
Definitely. I think, seeing someone of Zach's skill level is something that, I was able to play. Now, whenever I play with him, I try to play a little match or a side game or something with him, just because when you play with someone of that level, you need to keep your game on the entire round. And I think that's something that from a training aspect is really priceless. We were lucky enough right before quarantine started over here to do a quick little trip with some buddies, and we had a competitive aspect to a part of it. And on one of the stops, it was a team event, and the team that I was on played against Zach and his partner, and just playing against Zach was something that I had never experienced before and look forward to hopefully experiencing a lot in the future. It was just every hole either he's got 15 feet for birdie and he's probably going to give it a good look, or he's going to scrape out a par that you didn't think he could. So it keeps you on your toes, and it keeps your mind definitely more in it than it would be if you were just playing for your own score.
And when you walk away from that round, you're thinking, yeah, I could do that. A little bit, give me a year, I could do that.
No, not quite. Got to be honest. He hits some shots, makes some putts that, he always says, great players make great putts, and that's what you see with him. Definitely hit a few shots here and there where I'm like, all right, maybe hit some crafty chips and pitches, but definitely since I've played with him, when I do play with him, I'm usually playing in a group where I'm usually the highest handicap golfer, which is something that I'm not a scratch by any means. I'm a 3 handicap, but still it's something that I'm not really used to as much, being kind of the weekend, the weak string in the puzzle. So definitely makes you want to step up your game and practice a little bit harder so that, at some point you can make a putt in their face and, say, hey, I'm here to play too. So it's a lot of fun.
Good stuff. I'm interested always getting people's take on stuff when they're kind of not from the UK. Obviously golf travel's huge business and will not quite right now, but will be hopefully in the not too distant future. When people are out there kind of looking at trips to the States, you obviously mentioned places like Pinehurst, talked about Sweetens quite a bit, but I think in terms of locations and places to put yourself, if outside of the kind of mainstay resort locations for people to go and play golf in America, if you wanted to put people from the UK on a plane to a particular state or a particular area in the USA, where would you kind of say, look, head there, there's a real untapped mecca of golf? What would be your kind of counsel there?
I do think places like Pinehurst are such a great option because you're able to, I think Pinehurst specifically is such a great place, not only because they have 9 courses, they're building a 10th, and they put in the cradle, they've redone 4, they've put a lot of work into the resort to make it more enjoyable to go there, right? Rather than playing around on number 2 and being like, all right, I guess we'll play a couple other filler courses, trying to step up the game of those filler courses so that you really do enjoy your time there. The Mid Pines Pine Needles Resort is right there. Mid Pines is one of my favorite routings I've ever played. You got Tobacco Road not too far. So I really do think that's such a great area, especially from a public access point of view, if you were to come over to the States. If you want to get into kind of the best places for golf in the States, that gets a little tricky, like you mentioned, with public access. But, I've heard a lot of stories of guys from overseas playing at certain courses that, have good relationships with clubs over in the US. So they're able to come over. They've met people that have traveled over there and kind of do the part 2 of a home and home. But the New York area is just so golf rich. And even if you drive from New York to Pennsylvania up to Massachusetts, which those are all probably 3-hour drives each, are really just amazing golf locations, each in their own. So that would be my recommendation. But from a public access point of view, the Carolinas is really such a great place.
I think on that note, just want to say a massive thank you for giving us your time, and really loved having you on, and all the best for all the Buck Club endeavors and Putter Kid and college, and of course the hopefully if we get a bit of a golfing season ahead of us for the summer, then best of luck with all that as well.
Yeah, great, Max. I think, we will watch the project with huge excitement. I think what you're doing is genuinely really innovative in the game. And, kind of in a few years from now, this might be like kind of the next big thing. So we're going to be watching this with super excitement, mate.
Well, thank you guys for having me. Look forward to hopefully doing it again soon.
Brilliant. Thanks, Max.
Thank you.
This.